Hello, Derek. How are you?
I'm good. How's it going, James?
I'm doing good, thanks. Doing good.
So where are you guys at right now?
We are at home in Scotland, just kind of dusting off the cobwebs from Christmas time and getting back into the practice room and getting organised for coming over to the States next week.
Fantastic. So go ahead and tell us what's going on with these U.S. dates going on in February.
Well, we came to the East Coast last year, and we've kind of learnt our lesson in the past about trying to tackle your country in one go. It's quite a feat.
It's pretty overwhelming.
It's a little overwhelming. It's always fun, but yeah, you can go a little bit crazy. So we decided to split the tour up really and make sure we were kind of full of energy and in full battery. So we've been kind of itching to come back, and the West Coast is been a lot of bands that inspired us, I guess, when we started or from that part of the world, and it's just really it's still really exciting every time we make that trip. So we're looking forward to coming back.
So you going to be doing pretty much the same show that you were doing on the East Coast last year, or are you mixing it up a little bit?
We want to always keep things interesting, and hopefully every night is interesting, even if you maybe play exactly the same set list. It's still different in every room. It's still about the communication with the audience, and so we'll change up some of the older songs that we're playing. I think, we're obviously concentrating on songs from this latest album, but we do like to kind of mix things up. I think we're lucky as a band. There are none of our songs that we don't like to play. I think some bands get a bit fed up of playing certain songs, but we enjoy them all, so I think we're lucky in that regard.
Nice. So talk to us a little bit about the writing and recording process for Opposites.
Well, we were on the road for about 2 years with Only Revolutions, and we became a little bit burnt out, as happens towards the end, and so we had to have a little bit of a break, and then Simon just went through a massive creative streak, writing about 45 songs, and it was round about this time that we started to talk about the idea of a double record, and the more we worked on the songs, the more they kind of revealed themselves to be in two separate camps, not so much musically, but lyrically and emotionally. One, the Sand at the Core of Our Bones was really about a sadder outlook in life, about things in your life that have brought you to a point, things that you can't change. And there's a certain resignation to that. The Land at the End of Our Toes is more about looking forward and what's in the future and what you can change. So it just felt the right time to make a double album. Perhaps a little bit bold, a little bit not narcissistic, but it's quite a selfish thing to do in a way. But I think music, you've got to kind of excite yourself. You got to keep that passion going, and I think by taking that risk, by pushing yourselves, it made us feel really proud and really excited of where we got to as a band.
It's refreshing, getting that amount of music from an artist that you like, because a lot of times people just put out an album and it's barely 40 minutes and you're left wanting more. Sorry, on you go, Derek.
Oh,
what was the hardest part? Do you think of the recording process for that album?
I think we naively, a big part of recording is, I'm sure you're quite well aware, but you go in and you set up all the equipment and you put 150 microphones on the drum kit, and it takes a long time to get running, to get the wheels running. I think we thought we would save some time by doing it all in one place, and that it wouldn't take twice as long, but it took exactly twice as long. It took a long fucking time. That was quite tough, I suppose. We were away from home. We went through quite a difficult period as a band leading up to that, and we worked through that while we were making the album. But it was also a fun time. It was really exciting to have 20 songs and know that we could have, different drum sounds, for example, and different drum kits in different rooms, and really concentrate on getting the sound that every song required. And creatively, it was a really, really exciting project, and a lot of work. The tough times you forget about, the hard times you forget about, and those memories have passed now. All I can remember is just having a ball and really having making yourselves feel excited by the music we were creating.
And then, the band had some problems in the past with some substance abuse, obviously. How did you guys kind of work through those issues and get back on track?
It was a tough time. We're in a rock band touring around. In some ways, we've got a lot less responsibilities than many people in their walks of life. So you can slip into bad habits, and sometimes that takes a while to break those habits. But what we did, we just came together. Ben and I are twins, and we've been friends with Simon since we were really young kids, and we just came together and tried to help each other. And I think making the album was quite therapeutic in that regard. It gave us something to concentrate on, something to really focus on. And I think it was just a rebirth of the band. It felt that we were starting again. We had as much energy and passion for it as we always had. And, it was a really tough time. I wouldn't sort of wish anybody to go through tough times, but sadly, life has a way of throwing difficult things in your way. And you just got to get through it. And once you do, you feel a lot stronger. You feel a lot more positive and able to kind of take on the world again.
So when were you first inspired to create music?
I guess when we were young, very young, there was always kind of musical instruments in our house with Ben and I, and we'd always kind of played a bit. My dad always played guitar. And then Ben and Simon started studying music at school. I didn't study at that point. I don't really know why. I couldn't really put my finger on why it was, but then round about 15, 16, they asked me if I wanted to join the band, and it was just a way of, like everybody else, you get bored of the town you grow up in, and you feel there's nothing to do, and with the wet weather we have here, it was nice just on a Saturday afternoon to get together in the garage and make some noise that would piss off our parents and kind of make us feel excited. And at no point was it, right, we're going to form a band and take on the world. That kind of idea didn't come until later. But at first it was just about a love of kind of expressing yourselves and doing it together as with your brothers. That was the kind of most exciting thing.
Do you still go out and listen to live music when you're not on tour?
No. It's actually one of the most frustrating things is hearing about all the great bands that come through town, and you always seem to miss them by one day. It's the day you leave or the day before you come back, and when we get the chance we do. It's been a little bit of a while for me. I can't actually remember the last time I went to a show in Glasgow. Luckily, this town in Glasgow, there's some great venues from really small clubs, a few hundred people, and you can more or less work your way all the way up to the big rooms. So there's definitely a good scene here. Although as a band, we don't really feel part of any kind of scene. It's nice that there's always great bands coming through town.
Have you ever met any of your musical influences?
We have. We met Dave Grohl. We did a few shows with the Foo Fighters. We supported them around the kind of Midwest, and we did a bunch of shows in the UK. And it's the one time it was a disappointment. He lived up to all of our hopes, and musically he's inspired us so much, but also the way he carries himself, the way the whole Foo Fighters, not just as people, but the way they kind of operate as a band is a real. It's a really great way of doing things, and it's shown that they've lasted. They've been a band now for a lot longer than Nirvana were, and I think Dave's really got his head screwed on, and still a musical hero of ours.
And if you could collaborate with another artist, whether they're live or dead, who would it be? I just got asked the same question in the last interview, and usually I would jump to start
bands, but all their favourite bands are kind of rock bands, and that might not be too interesting a collaboration. So I would say somebody more like Annie Lennox or a female vocalist like Cat Power or something like that, and just something that would be a little bit different. Maybe Bjork. I've always been a huge fan of Bjork, so we'd love to get in the studio with Bjork. That would be amazing.
Who in the band has the best music collection, do you think?
I think Simon. Simon is just he's a music nut. We all love music, but he consumes music like nobody's business. He's always just picking up bands, finding it. I don't know how he does, but he always manages to find the coolest bands. And yeah, I think he's got a pretty big music collection. He's still got all his cassettes from back in the day and stuff like that. So mine's kind of perhaps more varied in some ways. But certainly not as extensive.
Do you have any artists that you're really into that you want to have people check out?
Yeah, I've been trying to find, because we're not at home, we miss a lot of the bands from home. So we got friends that keep us in the loop. There's a Scottish hip hop band called Young Fathers. I think they live in Edinburgh, but they've come from Nigeria, and just really of interest in hip hop, kind of salsa beats and sort of interesting takes on things. And another band called Three Blind Wolves, who I don't really know much about them, also from Scotland. Great band, they sound like a band from Scotland, and it's always nice when a band kind of wears their heart on the sleeve, and I think they're definitely worth checking out.
What advice would you give to yourself, back when you first started the band that you know now?
We always try to avoid advice, and the best advice would be don't listen too much to advice. Try and be true to yourself and have the courage to make mistakes and the conviction to make mistakes. And if your heart's in it, if you're committed, you'll figure things out eventually. And life's about making mistakes as much as it is doing everything perfectly. And we've been lucky enough to enjoy it. So not a moment has passed us by that we weren't enjoying.
Fantastic. And so you guys are touring in the States for a little bit, and then you're heading over to Australia, and just kind of bouncing around the world, right?
That's correct. We made this will be we've been meaning to come to the West Coast for a while, but we went round fairly extensively around Europe last year. So this year we hope to go to some more far-flung places we haven't been before. So it should be an exciting time, and if it's we had such a good time last year, so I'm looking forward to things getting rolling.
What do you think's been your favorite place to tour, or your favorite single show that you've done?
I love the variety. Every room's different, every club's different. People remarkably around the world are more similar than they might like to think. Everyone has similar kind of things that they live for and they hope for in their lives. But last summer we played our biggest ever show, and that was at the Reading Festival in the UK, and it's been one of the biggest rock music festivals in our country for a long time. So to get a chance to headline there was just absolutely phenomenal, a dream come true, and it felt like one of our best ever shows, which is difficult to do in such a kind of pressured environment. So that's one that'll take a long time for that one to go over the bump of that.
So anything that you can tell us about what's coming up for the band that hasn't already been said?
There are no surprises. We're going to keep touring. We're going to keep having fun. We're going to start thinking about a new record. We'll start making, working more on songs this year and hope to start recording next year. But no, we're not going anywhere. We love doing what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it. And we appreciate everyone's support and everyone comes to the shows. So looking forward to seeing you guys in the West Coast.
Fantastic. Well, definitely looking for the show at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco, and we'll talk to you soon.
Nice to talk to you, Derek. You take care, man.
All right. Have a good one.
Cheers. Bye-bye.